Hello, everyone. My name is Caitlin Bayshore, and I chose to read What the Best College Students Do, which was written by Ken Bain. In this lecture, I'm going to talk about the key points of this book for college students, as well as some takeaways for teachers that we could potentially utilize in future courses. Oops. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay, so some key takeaways and tips throughout this book was about the different styles of learning. So deeper learning, surface learning, and strategic learning, about having a growth mindset when it comes to your education and growth as an individual, intrinsic motivation, self-compassion, curiosity in a broad education, reflective thinking, goes over some effective study habits, purpose versus passion, supportive relationships, and taking control of your education. So throughout this presentation, I'll be going a little bit deeper into some of the main key takeaways that I found helpful for students. So I'm going to talk about the three various learning styles. So to begin with, we're going to look at a deeper learning style. So a deeper learning style is the most successful, which focuses on understanding the concepts rather than just memorizing facts and taking these concepts or these theories and applying them to our everyday lives, for a professional, personal, kind of like a discussion board in a sense. And then, as well as relating the new information to what we already know or real life examples. Surface learning is basically memorizing the facts just to pass the exam. When I think of surface learning, I think of like the surfer surfing the waves, just skating across, and then kind of cramming the information all in at once, and a lack of engagement with the concepts. So this would go hand in hand with just memorizing the facts and the details just only to pass the exam. This results in a lack of understanding of the material as well as poor retention because the student is not actually grasping the concepts and able to apply that to real life examples. Next is strategic learning. So strategic learning kind of reminds me of a chessboard, hence the picture. With strategic learning, the overall goal is high grades and academic recognition. The student is able to identify what the professor wants and is catering their work to what the professor wants to see. And as well as the student will focus on exam techniques. So understanding how the professor writes their exams and having a basic understanding of what to expect. So more so, this is just searching for high grades and academic recognition rather than the actual understanding of the overall concepts and theories. I wanted to go over the key differences between the three learning styles that were talked about in this book. The three differences are the intentions, the engagement, and the outcome. So the intentions are, okay, does the student really want to learn this material and understand it to be able to apply it to their future or real life examples? Or does the student just want the high grade or just doing what they need to do to pass? Engagement. So how is the student engaged in the material? Are they bringing forth real life examples from their own career or their own life and their own family and applying it to what they're learning in the class? Or are they just engaging in the bare minimum just to get the grade? And then, of course, the outcomes are different. So with deeper learning, you understand the material. You may not have an A, but you have an understanding of the material that was presented. For the surface level, you're kind of just skating by, doing what's necessary. And for the strategic level is you are working towards getting that A because that's what's going to tell that individual student that they know the material, even if they don't. The book also went over key strategies to improve different learning styles. So asking the why. Why are we asking this question? Why are we looking for the answer to these questions rather than just, oh, yep, children have a hard time, for example. Making the connections. So again, that's making the connections between what the students are learning in the class and applying it to real life examples, as well as engagement, the reflection, and embracing the challenge. So is the student engaged in the material? Is the student reflecting on the material? And that can also be connected with making those real life example connections and embracing the challenge. Everything's not supposed to be easy. So really embracing your struggles and looking at the why. Why am I learning this for this degree or this program? Then I wanted to go into intrinsic motivation and self-compassion. So intrinsic motivation, that's identifying subjects, activities, and your passion. So rather than, oh yeah, I want to be a doctor, but you have no passion for helping individuals, maybe we need to look at something else, reevaluate your goals. You're passionate about children, you want to work with children, okay? So do you want to work as a case manager? Do you want to work in foster care? Do you want to be a teacher? And to identify your passions, it's important to set personal and academic goals. And one thing to remember is that you're going to have to set goals for yourself as a student and as a career professional, whether that's a professional goal like getting a graduate degree, you know, moving up in the corporate structure. Eventually, all students become employees, and we all have to have goals. For self-compassion, I thought this was really important to talk about because oftentimes students, if they have a failure on an exam or they fail a class or there's some sort of setback, like life comes up and a family member gets ill, oftentimes students are beating themselves up about this. So it's important for the student to understand that they need to be kind to themselves. Learning opportunities, resilience, and perseverance, humility, and growth mindset are all our 4 key points that students need to understand and be able to apply to themselves. Because at the end of the day, we need to recognize that everyone makes mistakes. And even though everyone makes mistakes, what's important is learning from those mistakes and experiences and utilizing what you learned in order to better improve yourself, which can also go hand in hand with setting personal or academic goals. One of the key focuses of this book was how college students need to adapt reflective thinking and differing study techniques. So when it comes to reflective thinking, we want to question your assumption. So you may have an assumption about a particular question asked or viewpoint asked, but where's the facts? Oftentimes we have to utilize resources to back up our assumptions or our viewpoints to prove this is why X, Y, and Z makes sense. It's also important to consider different viewpoints. You know, we see this every day in politics, for example. I'm not going to get into politics, but we see different viewpoints with politics, with how to raise children, should people get married, things like that. And then evaluate the evidence and reasonings. So, although you may have a different opinion or viewpoint or assumption on something else, that another individual doesn't agree with you, that is okay. And it's important to reflect on that and come from an understanding and an optimistic viewpoint. Study techniques. That is probably one of the most crucial points of this book because going from high school to college to grad, it's completely different ways to understand the material and implement the material into your everyday work or life. So spaced repetition to improve long-term retention. So constant repeating of these concepts, these theories, things like that. Ask yourself why. I talked about that a little bit earlier. The why helps the student grasp an understanding of the concept. Test yourself. There's many ways you can test yourself. Flashcards, there's tools online you can use, study groups, things like that. Reinforce your learning and evaluate ways to improve your learning and understanding. Do what works best for you. We all learn differently. There was 3 basic learning style techniques presented in this book. There are different ways to study, different ways to learn. Something that I thought was really interesting in this book was about social stereotypes, especially in the college setting. So social stereotypes can cause increased anxiety and stress. It lowers our expectations and lowers our self-esteem. It de-identifies students from their academics, and there's an impact on their performance as well as the social and emotional consequences. For example, the stereotype that somebody is just at the college to play football. They are a really intelligent individual, but the stereotype of is implanted on them that they're not. So that can really hinder their academic success. So the book really talked about strategies to mitigate the impact, which are growth mindset, self-affirmation exercises, and an inclusive environment. So constantly evaluating yourself. Okay, do I have a growth mindset? Am I being kind to myself? And how is my environment? Am I in a good environment? Am I in a bad environment? And then, since this is a teaching course, I thought it was important to kind of pull away the key takeaways that teachers could learn from this book. Um, so this is what I found is fostering deeper learning. So this means encouraging the understanding of the material rather than the memorization and promote critical thinking within assignments. This is where discussion boards really make an impact on an individual student's learning because it's not just a simple multiple choice. It's typing of words. You have to understand the material in order to answer the question and provide supportive evidence. Secondly, an inclusive environment. So supporting diverse perspectives, is supporting different viewpoints and addressing the stereotypes. Third, opportunity to practice and for feedback. So collaborative learning, ask your students, how am I doing? What can I do better? One thing I found is the evaluation at the end of each course. I can really reflect on, okay, did this teacher's information help me improve my understanding of X, Y, and Z? Fourth, encourage self-reflection and promotion of the growth mindset. So constantly encouraging students to reflect on their learning, reflect on themselves as individuals, and to not be so hard on themselves. Integrate liberal education practices. So this is utilizing real-world applications. So using real-world examples. How does this theory apply to real world perspective? Give me an example. This is also really good with discussion boards as well. Support student autonomy. So this is anything about choice and control and ownership. Allow the student to take ownership for their work. Allow the student to make their choices based on the information that is given to them. And then using effective assessment strategies. So to assign assignments to be real world tasks or challenges. So papers, discussion boards, presentations like this, rather than just quizzes and exams where it's an ABCD answer. That's not really understanding the material and having a full grasp of it. And lastly, here is my reference slide with the APA reference as well as a picture of the book. And I would recommend this book for college students who are just starting their bachelor's degree, or maybe a refresher for students who took a break from their bachelor's degree and then are coming back for their graduate or doctorate degree, just to give them that refresher on how to manage themselves, how to manage their studies. And I especially think this is a really good book for newer teachers to give a baseline on ways to format, create, and address learning styles and assignments. It really went into the depths of, or like the mind of the college student. So I thought that was really important to share. So overall, I would recommend this book really for anybody, but especially these new college students or new teachers. Alrighty, thank